9:28. Welcome back, everybody. It's Ask the Expert with Kroon Electric Corporation this morning. Michael Kroon is here. 613-789-6559, extension 2803 is the phone number. You can email questions. You can also Facebook questions. And right away, Michael, we have several questions, and we'll start.
That's great.
Yeah, we'll start with some Facebook questions that you have sent in this morning. Here's Natalie. I rent in an old building, and I'm sure the electrical part of it is not up to standard. What are my rights? What can I do about it? You must get a lot of questions from people who rent.
Yeah. We get a lot of renters' questions, and really the liability issue, I'm not lawyers, so I'm not going to answer that. But I think what they should do is really talk to their landlord and make sure they have it verified. I've gone into several renters' homes who've actually hired me to build a report for them and then present it to their...
and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, they're allowed to do that. Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, and then there's always an issue about who's going to pay for the repairs after the fact.
Exactly,
right?
and that's something you have to work out with your landlord. And so
and I think it depends what kind of lease agreement you have and so on. Yeah.
Well, you got to imagine, I mean, you deal with a lot of people with older homes and so on. There are a lot of older buildings.
A lot of older buildings, exactly.
Apartment buildings.
A lot of, and if you look in the newspaper, you can see all these buildings, these triplexes, multiplex, they're always catching fire. I should say always catch fire, but a lot of them catch fire just because no one maintains them, right? And it's really unfortunate. So if you're a landlord or if you are looking at renting a building, you should make sure that one of the things you ask your landlord is, you know, is this building up to code, electrical code? You know, because you're living there.
It's worth the question.
Exactly.
And maybe get that in writing if it is. If they claim it is.
It is,
Right? There's nothing wrong with that.
No. And if you're plugging your computers in there's no ground, you might ruin your equipment.
You could easily ruin your equipment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, let's get to the telephones now. Sue is on the telephone. Good morning, Sue. How are you?
Not bad.
Hi,
good.
Sue.
Hi.
You got a question this morning?
Yes, I'm wondering, I live in an apartment building, which is an older apartment building.
Okay.
And every time we put our plugs in the wall, they fall out.
Okay, that's those receptacles that you're plugging into don't have the right retention, so they need to be replaced. Okay. And I don't know who the landlord of the building is, but I'm assuming they have the responsibility to do that.
Right.
But that's very dangerous if they're falling out like that. Yeah.
So what causes that, Michael? Why does that happen?
Well, in a plug, when you plug it in, it's supposed to be really tight, and it makes a good connection.
Yeah.
But if they're falling out, it's because the two prongs inside the receptacle are split open.
Is that a case of age?
It's usually a case of age or overuse.
Yeah, well, the older you get, the more things fall out, right?
Exactly. So I would highly recommend that falls out, not fall out, that they replace them.
To replace them.
Yeah.
And talk to your landlord if you're in a rental situation.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you have that happening at home, you know why now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, Jane's on the phone. Hi, Jane. How are you?
I'm terrific.
Very
Thank
good.
you for taking my call.
No problem. What's
Hey,
your
Jane.
question?
Hi. We have a cottage that we used to run all year round, and we know what the electrical costs were for that.
Yeah.
But now we're not there, and it still seems that we have a huge electrical bill, and we're not even there. We're just keeping it minimally warm.
Right.
Would your service show us where electricity may be being not used properly, or we have a suspicion that that something isn't right?
Something's draining your electricity, and you don't know why.
Jane, that's a great question. And
it is a good question.
We get a lot of people calling up about that, and that's why I actually brought this device to
I want to pick that up for you.
Sure. Jane, what I would recommend for you to do is to purchase something like this that we have. It's this is a specific model, but there's just different models. And what it is a power monitor. So you could plug into your house, and you could use the monitor and walk around and turn things on and off and see where your energy is being consumed.
Okay.
So if you turn everything off and there's still a lot of energy being consumed, you know there's an issue.
Right.
And at that point, if you can't find it, then you would call some company like ourselves to come in and look at it.
This is a do-it-yourself of the same thing we were talking about earlier, right?
I would not do it yourself on this one.
No, is that right?
No, I would hire someone to install this thing.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because what you do is you have your electrical panel, and you have your two main wires coming in, and you got to put these little clamps on the wires, and it's kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
So don't do that up. Unless your kids, you can send them to do it. But
I mean, electrical stuff, electrical work or whatever is not something I'm comfortable handling as a homeowner.
No.
And it's one of those things that I always would call and have a professional do it. Because it's a high-risk situation, is it not?
It could be high risk. You get zapped, but the more important thing, the risk is if you don't do it correctly, and then something happens to a family member, or your house catches fire or something.
Right.
That's where the big risk is.
Right.
Getting zapped and all that, it hurts.
What about in Jane's case? Obviously, I'm sure a lot of people run into this where they feel like their electricity bill is very high, and they really can't figure out why. Does you guys coming in and doing an assessment help that situation?
There's a potential. I would say in a large percentage of cases, people are just consuming too much electricity. That's the fact. But by knowing where you're consuming your electricity with a device like this, then you can control it.
Okay.
Okay. On the odd case, though, there's some people that there's an actual problem.
Right.
It could be a device that's not working correctly.
Right.
It could be leakage on the neutral and so on. There's a bunch of little things that could be a problem.
Right.
But in large majority of the time,
You're just
people,
using too much
you're
power?
using too much power. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm probably guilty of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And there are ways to cut back on
And there's ways, and one of the things we do during the assessment element is we talk about how you're using power and how you could reduce your consumption. So that's one of the great things about it.
I bet you can immediately see when you walk into a home where the issues lie to a certain degree, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you live there, you don't see it anymore because you walk by these problems all the time, right? You just, it's always been like that,
Yeah.
But electrical costs have gone up 40-50% the last few years.
That's crazy.
It's just nuts.
Yeah.
So now people are paying attention to it.
Yeah.
And it's a good time to pay
Exactly.
attention to it. Yeah.
All right, we're going to take our second break, but we have more to come and more opportunities for you to ask questions from Michael Kroon of Kroon Electrical. 613-789-6559, extension 2803. Email us, Facebook us. We'll be back with more of Ask the Expert with Kroon Electrical after this.